Imagine a civilization so advanced it could coordinate millions of people across a territory larger than the Roman Empire, build roads and cities that still astonish engineers today, and maintain a complex society all without money. No coins, no banks, no markets, no buying or selling. To our modern capitalist mindset, this seems impossible. Yet for nearly a century, the Inca Empire did exactly that. They created a thriving, sophisticated civilization, not on currency, but on a revolutionary principle. An economy built not on what you own, but on what you owe your community and your state. This is the story of history's most successful, moneyless society. An economic system that operated on labor, loyalty, and an intricate system of knotted cords that served as their database. Where taxes were paid in time, not treasure. Where security was guaranteed in return for service. And where the ultimate measure of wealth was not personal accumulation, but collective well-being. Today, we will be introduced to an economic model that challenges every assumption we hold about value, trade, and human organization. Welcome to the Historical Audit, where we find the missing pieces behind history's greatest events. To understand the Inca economy, we must first abandon our modern concept of value. In the Inca world, land was not property to be bought and sold, it was a sacred trust. The state technically owned all territory, but this wasn't authoritarian control in the modern sense. Instead, land was divided into three sacred portions, one for the Sapa Inca, which was for the emperor, one for Inti, which was for the sun god managed by priests, and one for the Ailu, which was for the extended family clans that formed the bedrock of Andean society. Every family within an Ailu received a plot of land called a tupu, sufficient to support them. Nothing was free. Every citizen paid with labor. The Mita powered the Inca Empire. Every able-bodied adult spent a portion of each year working for the state. You might build sections of the incredible road network that connected the empire, farm the lands designated for the state or religious institutions, serve in the military, or help construct the monumental architecture that still dots the Andes today. In return, the state provided what we would now call a social safety net. Storehouses called quilcas were strategically placed throughout the empire, filled with surplus food, textiles, and tools. In times of drought or disaster, these were open to support the population. After completing your Mita service, the state would host elaborate feasts with food and chicha, also known as corn beer, reinforcing the social contract through celebration. Your labor was your tax, and your security was your return. The Incas also practiced brilliant ecological adaptation through what scholars call vertical archipelago management. A single community would maintain plots at different altitudes, all the way from coastal valleys to high mountain plateaus, ensuring access to diverse crops and resources. This wasn't just smart farming, it was economic resilience built into the very geography of their society. Consider this radical idea. An entire empire's economy ran on time, not money. Where do we see echoes of this today? In proposals for universal basic services? In national service programs? Or does our gig economy represent a distorted mirror trading time for access without the security of that Inca social contract? I'm curious what parallels you see in today's world. The Inca system of redistribution was what made their moneyless economy function. Unlike extractive empires that simply collected wealth from subjects, the Incas operated on a principle of reciprocal obligation. The state took labor, but gave back security, organization, and celebration. This created a powerful social glue. Loyalty was reinforced through visible, tangible returns on one's labor contribution. But how do you administer an empire spanning thousands of miles and millions of people without writing, numbers, or currency? The answer lies in one of history's most ingenious inventions, the quipu. Now, what is a quipu? A quipu was a complex recording device made of colored, knotted cords. To the untrained eye, it might look like an elaborate textile art project. But to a quipu kamayuk who was a trained quipu reader, these cords contained vast amounts of information. Different colors represented different commodities or categories, not types and positions encoded numerical data. Through these intricate arrangements, the Incas recorded census information, tax obligations, agricultural yields, military organization, and even historical narratives. Think of the quipu as the Inca internet. It's like a decentralized data network that allowed information to flow across the empire without paper, ink, or digital code. A quipu message could tell administrators in Cusco exactly how much maize was stored in a warehouse 300 miles away, or how many laborers were available for an upcoming construction project. This was a civilization that achieved bureaucratic sophistication through textile engineering rather than written language. This fundamentally challenges our definition of an advanced civilization. We typically equate progress with alphabets, coins, and written records. The Incas had none of these, yet they created one of the most organized societies in human history. What does this tell us about our own biases when we evaluate intelligence and organization? Are we missing forms of knowledge and administration in our own world because they don't fit our technological templates? Three powerful forces held this complex, moneyless system together. They were the religious ideology, physical infrastructure, and strategic population management. First, the Sapa Inca was considered a living god, the son of Inti. This divine status transformed economic obligation into religious duty. Serving the state through the Mita wasn't just civic responsibility, it was participating in the cosmic order. This spiritual dimension gave the economic system tremendous resilience and legitimacy. When the Incas conquered new territories, they often incorporated local deities into their pantheon, making submission feel less like defeat and more like spiritual elevation. Second, the Incas built the most extensive road system in the pre-industrial world of the Quapacñan, spanning over 25,000 miles. This wasn't just a transportation network, it was the empire's circulatory system. Along these roads traveled not just goods and soldiers, but information. A corps of relay runners called chasquis could carry messages up to 150 miles per day, an astonishing speed for the time. This infrastructure enabled the central planning that made their redistribution economy possible. Third, the Incas practiced strategic resettlement called the Mitmac policy. Loyal communities would be relocated to newly conquered areas, while potentially rebellious populations were moved to the imperial heartland. This served multiple purposes. It spread the Quechua language and Inca culture, broke up regional power bases, and created human networks of loyalty across diverse geographies. It was demographic engineering as economic policy. The Inca economic model was remarkably successful in its context. It created unprecedented stability, prevented the extreme poverty seen in many hierarchical societies, fostered incredible architectural and engineering achievements, and built a strong cultural identity across diverse regions. For nearly a century, it worked spectacularly well. But the system contained inherent vulnerabilities that would prove fatal when confronted with external shock. The economy was hyper-centralized around the figure of the Sapa Inca and a small administrative elite. While this enabled remarkable coordination, it created a single point of failure. The system was rigid, excellent for maintaining stability in predictable conditions, but terrible for adapting to unexpected challenges. Succession was another critical weakness. There was no clear rule for who would become the next Sapa Inca. When an emperor died, conflict often erupted between potential heirs. This happened just before the Spanish arrived, leaving the empire divided between Atahualpa and Huáscar in a civil war that weakened Inca resistance at the worst possible moment. Then came the ultimate external shock, the Spanish conquest. The conquistadors, though vastly outnumbered, attacked the system. At its most vulnerable point, they captured the god emperor Atahualpa himself. With the living center of their religious, political, and economic universe imprisoned and executed, the entire reciprocal system collapsed. The storehouses that fed the people were looted by invaders. The labor system lost its legitimacy. The Hipu records were destroyed or became unreadable, as the Hipu Kamayuk were killed or dispersed. A civilization built on intricate social and economic knots unraveled with astonishing speed. The lesson is both profound and cautionary. The Inca economy was a masterpiece of human organization, perfectly adapted to its environment and worldview. But its greatest strengths were centralization, ideological unity, and rigid structure later became fatal weaknesses when confronted with a completely foreign threat. The Inca experiment forces us to ask fundamental questions that we often avoid in our modern economic discussions. What is an economy ultimately for? Is its purpose to generate abstract financial wealth, or to ensure the well-being and cohesion of a society? The Incas clearly chose the latter. They built an economy where value was measured in community stability, architectural achievement, agricultural abundance, and sacred order, not in personal accumulation or tradable assets. In our current age of cryptocurrency, speculative bubbles, algorithmic trading, and growing inequality, the Inca model stands as a haunting alternative. It demonstrates that money is not a natural law of human organization, it's a technology, one option among many for coordinating society. The Quipunots recorded a different kind of ledger, where the bottom line wasn't profit and loss, but balance and reciprocity. Their legacy whispers to us across 5 centuries. An economy can be a sacred pact, a ritual of mutual obligation, a woven tapestry of collective care. It can run on trust, time, and tangible contribution rather than abstract currency. But the same intricate connections that create such a system also make it vulnerable. The knots that hold it together can, when pulled by an outside hand, cause the entire beautiful fabric to unravel. The stones of Machu Picchu still stand, the Kipak Ñan still traces the mountains, and the few surviving kippas still hold their silent records. They remind us that there have been other ways to organize human life, other definitions of value, other means of creating complex society. In our relentless pursuit of economic growth and financial innovation, we would do well to remember that the most sophisticated system might not be the one that generates the most money, but the one that best sustains the lives within it. If this audit has made you question the invisible assumptions of our own economic world, hit subscribe, share it with someone who thinks differently about value, and join us as we continue looking for the missing pieces in history's grand puzzle. And join the audit.